Wednesday morning with Michael Patrick Shields. Glad to have you with us here. Jonathan Raven, we turn to from time to time. He's an attorney with Frazier, Bilcock, Davis, and Dunlap PC because the world is moving fast, and especially when it comes to technology. And there are all sorts of, there are 8 million stories in the Naked City, Jonathan Raven? Is that what they used to say? Or was it 1 million? Maybe it was 8. If it was 1 million, it's now 8 million. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
The latest Kid City story, if you will, has to do with U.S. Congressman Anthony Weiner, the Democrat from New York. What happened with him, and why is he in trouble?
Well, we don't know if he's in trouble, but we know that he's got a little mess on his hands. He was the victim of apparently of a Twitter hack, where a photo of the anatomical midsection of a male in a state that we don't talk about on the radio apparently was tweeted, and it was purported to be that of Congressman Anthony Weiner, who is a Democratic leader, and he apparently states that he did not send that tweet. The media launched into a chase to find out who did. The woman whose account was used said, "I didn't do anything about this," and it appears that there was a virtual break-in of his Twitter account. Her Twitter account.
Given the situation, what you're talking about is if you threw a sheet over the Eiffel Tower, took a picture of it, and sent it, that's what we're talking about. Somebody took a picture of a tent, if you will, an anatomical tent from the midsection, as you say, and sent it out as if it were the congressman. He says he didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, aside from the analogy to the Eiffel Tower, which he may be grateful for, he clearly has a chance of seeing the person who did this, if they find that person, to be in violation of at least federal law and probably state law. There is a federal statute called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and this is used where people do hack accounts. It was used in the Sarah Palin case when somebody hacked her Yahoo account, and if that person is convicted under the federal law, he could face 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine if convicted of a felony. Government could prosecute that on a misdemeanor basis, but there is some question as to whether liability even extends to the website that posted the Twitter the tweet, which is TechCrunch. Although publishers themselves are often protected, but the person who did this hack really could be facing a problem because both federal and state are already ahead of the game in terms of statutes that actually protect the victims of this type of hack.
We're sure it's not the congressman. After all, his name is Weiner, or is it Weiner? I'm not sure how you pronounce that.
We are not sure at all, and some people relish talking about the problem with Weiner. Some people are just sitting on their buns and waiting for the story to evolve. But if he did it, clearly, then he's going to have some problems politically and socially as well.
He must feel very powerless, I would think, if he had nothing to do with it. It must be terribly embarrassing. Now, in another case, there's someone who was very proud. This happened, in fact, to my son Harrison a couple of months ago. He was flying back from Florida, and he got to look out the window and see the space shuttle launch. So he took a picture of it with his cell phone. Now, he only sent it to me, but there is a woman who took a much, and I guess it was a clearer photo, and it ended up in Time Magazine and everywhere else, but without her permission. Is that what happened?
Well, that is what happened. She took a video with her phone of the space shuttle launching, and it went viral. She actually posted it. Didn't post it with any sign of a copyright, but once she posted it, it went viral. And now it appears that actually some of the people who repeated it actually contacted her. The Associated Press paid her to use it. Some people asked for her permission and received it, but other outlets did not talk to her and did not ask her. And guess what? She could have a claim because anytime a person takes a photograph, it becomes automatically copyrighted. And then, if within 90 days you send it over to the federal government, it will become copyrighted under the statute. And then, if someone uses your work for commercial purposes, especially without permission, you can actually file an action and seek damages, although that is clearly an expensive and tough thing to do. But if somebody makes a lot of money off your picture without permission, you could have a cause of action. But you really want that, you should register a copyright, and you should also put a notice on your artwork or your photo that it is copyrighted.
You notice sometimes on the internet, particularly if you're looking at a photographer's website, they will burn a little image in the corner of their name or something like that to prevent that sort of thing from happening. The rest of us, though, might not be that technically advanced. If you put a picture of yourself on Facebook and it goes viral, do you have any control over something like that?
You know, that's interesting. I don't think you do, really.
Once you put it out there, it's out.
Post your own picture and you put it out there, it's out there. Although we will find in time that there are if somebody hacks your Facebook account and then uses your photo, that could be a violation of this law. It just depends on the particular facts and circumstances. The message here, though, is that even though people tend to not think about putting things up virally, and they take a picture, they immediately say, everybody wants to see this. When you do that, you actually are treading in the area of copyright law. You do have some rights. Waive the rights, but you can actually protect them. And where so much of news and media is now dependent upon citizen reporters, if you will, they should start to realize that they may well have something of value, especially if there's breaking news, or if they have something, a paparazzi-type picture of a celebrity in an interesting position. You know, there's a market for this stuff, and even John Q. Public or Mary Sue Public can make some money on this, and therefore, they should really think ahead before they post these things. Maybe even contact an agent or someone they know, a lawyer, or even a personality like yourself who's used to dealing with this and get a little bit of advice.
Speaking of celebrities in interesting positions, Paris Hilton was on with Piers Morgan last night talking about...
Saw that.
Yeah, and her sex tape that got released is one of the things that really made her famous in the first place.
I was amazed. I was in Detroit till late last night. I came home. It was about midnight. I turned on the TV to try to relax, and I'm watching Paris Hilton talking about this incident with her mother. And you know, this was as if Mother Teresa and one of her sisters were on TV talking about how horrible they felt about the mistreatment of the world. I mean, you have a woman here who had a sex tape that she made that got posted. And she harvested the publicity from that, and now she says, well, isn't this terrible? Well, sure, it's terrible. And people who do these things are entitled to privacy. If it gets posted, though, once these things are made, they're made. And you find a lot of people dancing on the edge of using these things actually in a weird way for publicity and for fame. And then when they get it, they sometimes even falsely complain that, oh, this is terrible. But it has a way of making people famous and rich, and it's an odd commentary on our times that people can do these things and then maybe even have rights if they feel violated. On the other hand, they sometimes find that letting these things go is more valuable to them than actually pursuing their intellectual property rights.
Yeah, and Piers Morgan, he fell all over Paris Hilton during that interview yesterday, and for the first 15 minutes, all she said were yes, no answers. I couldn't take it almost anymore. Thank you. The great Jonathan Raven from Fraser, Trebilcock, Davis, and Dunlap PC says, be careful.